11 walks through 109 innings of work.
Well, here's Jason Tyner to start it, and that first pitch is a strike, as you might well imagine. Tyner now hitting .296. Little tap to the right side. That's a fair ball, foul ball. That's fair. And he is out number one. Segui coming in down the line and made the pickup with the ball in foul ground.
Well, you got to think, hit it to somebody else. This guy has been a very sure-handed first baseman for many, many years. In fact, a few years ago, went through a whole season without making an error at first base.
Now here's Brent Abernathy. Well, the combination of Tyner and Abernathy last night, a lot to do with the 11-10 Devil Ray victory. That's a strike. The Rays had 20 hits in that game. Abernathy over 300, coming off a 3-for-5 night with 3 runs batted in. And he lifts it into short right. Conine. 2 gone.
Well, let's take a quick look at the Orioles defense. Used to be the original Marlin, Jeff Conine, niner in right field, just caught that last pop fly. Talented rookie Larry Bigby in center, Mike Kincaid in left. Segui, the sure-handed first baseman, Cal Ripken Jr. over at third base.
Here's Greg Vaughn, the designated hitter. There you go. He held up, says Jim Wolf down at first. A ball, no strikes, the count to Vaughn. Straight back foul and out of play into the upper deck. The count is 1-1. Well, Towers' run of control has been remarkable, as you point out, Joe. Only 11 walks in now over 110 innings for the Orioles this year. Breaking ball down to Ripken at third. His throw to first in time, and the Rays are up and down 1, 2, 3. We go to the
some cameraman. He was just standing still perfectly.
Yep. It's Ben Grieve, and he takes the pitch low. 1 ball, no strikes.
There's our lovable Jimmy.
See? Jimmy's having a little trouble keeping himself steady. Pitch is high. 2 balls and no strikes. But he is an enthusiastic cameraman. And
someone, unbeknownst to him, put Ben Gay on his pant legs.
Pitch is down. 3 balls and no strikes.
So he won't be standing still all night.
So please don't adjust your sets at home. The pitch is a strike. It's 3-1 now. Rays facing the right-hander, Josh Towers. They saw him earlier in the starting role. Ball 4. Hey, walked a man. As Ben Grieve, who is 10th in the league in walks. You know, Grieve's he's gonna walk close to 100 times this year.
Well, you look at that and say, well, Jim Thome is going to walk over 100 times, and you say, well, hey, that's great. But I think Ben, when we've seen Ben hit his best, he's been more aggressive and swinging the bat conscious than walk conscious.
Well, here's Toby Hall. And he sends a high fly ball back into left center field. Room out there for Bigby, the center fielder who makes the catch. And so on the first pitch, Hall is retired against Josh Towers.
You know, Dwayne, you brought up an interesting point about Ben Grieve. We're going to walk around 100 times. And of course, he's strike out over 100 times. Jim Thome is going to walk over 100 times. He's going to strike out over 100 times. Jim Thome is going to hit a lot of balls in the seats and drive in a lot of runs. And in Ben Greaves' past, he has certainly done that. So if the walks and strikeouts are going to be there, that's fine. As long as it comes with home runs and runs driven in, it's been a frustrating year for him.
Well, here's Steve Cox just back off the disabled list. He pops it up on the first pitch. Ripken's making the call. 2 gone.
Well, you notice when Cal Ripken calls for a fly ball, there aren't too many people that are going to call him off.
Melvin Mora deferred immediately. 2 gone. By the way, that walk to Grieve was the first walk Towers has given up in 22 2/3 innings. That's the kind of control this young right-hander has exhibited for the Orioles.
So, on the second occasion, Bill Fisher, it's time to relax for a while.
Yeah. Now Randy Wynn. And the pitch is in there for a strike. And you know, that walk to Grieve, as you know, hitters and pitchers have great memories. Grieve was 3 out of 4 against Towers.
He hit him well.
Yep, when they faced him before, and so he's the guy who draws the walk. Towers had only given up 1 walk over his last 6 starts. Foul ball.
Well, I remember those games back in Baltimore. And actually the Rays hung an L 4 starts ago on Josh Towers back in Baltimore, but Grieve was getting his hits early in the count, and we were talking a lot about that. Hey, he's swinging the bat early against a guy who's throwing strikes, so Towers counters with it, with that memory, as you say. Well, I'm not going to give this guy anything good to hit early in the count, and lo and behold, he ends up getting behind and then walking.
That's a foul ball just outside the bag, holding the count at 2 strikes. Yeah, you know, that outing for Towers came on the 31st in Baltimore, and Grieve doubled in a run his first time up, jumped on the first pitch and went up the left field line, and then singled on the second pitch in the 4th inning and eventually scored a run. So he did absolutely hurt him early. 0-2 the count. Swing and a miss. First strikeout for Towers, and that retires the side. We're through to Jason Tyner will bat. Sandberg with his average back up to 273, largely on the strength of 3 hits last night when he went 3 for 5. The pitch is fouled back for a strike. With Steve Cox being activated, Aubrey Huff has been optioned to Durham, the Rays AAA affiliate. Al McRae really wanted to see more of Sandberg. That's a strike on the outside corner, so the Rays manager in his evaluation toward the future felt he needed to get a better look, not only defensively, but at the plate for Sandberg. So that's what he's doing, with Huff going to AAA and continuing to get his at-bats there. And by the way, he'll be playing third base at Durham. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Well, we've talked a lot about it with Al McRae with regard to Aubrey Huff, who really thinks that eventually Aubrey Huff's going to be a very fine hitter, but quite frankly, he needs as much defensive work, whether it's at first or third, as he can get.
The 1-2 to Sandberg, and a stroke back toward the corner. That's going to go all the way to the wall. Sandberg makes a big turn. He'll hold at first base. Kincaid got a nice carom. Sandberg stops with a base hit. That's the first Rays hit of the ball game.
Playing a little pepper with the wall in left field, and he had visions of going to second, and about almost halfway in between first and second, decided, seeing the accuracy of the throw, to retreat back to first.
So base hit for Sandberg, and it brings up Chris Gomez, the shortstop. You know, I would think Towers is a young pitcher who has to make an adjustment. I mean, here he is, 8-7. He has pitched well, but the word is out now as he makes his 16th start. The pitch is a little high to him, a ball, no strikes, that he loads up and throws a ton of first pitch strikes.
And he throws enough strikes to where you say, well, he's not just getting his fastball over, he's getting the other pitches over. And the countermeasure to that, if you're Josh Towers, is just like he just tried to do there to Gomez. First pitch breaking balls, he knows he can get it over the plate. That's all you have to do.
And he comes back with a fastball for a strike.
If you're a pitcher and you know that that hitter wants to swing at the first pitch, it's an advantage. It's not a disadvantage, even if you know you're going to throw first pitch strikes, so you can just do a little something different. There aren't too many first ball breaking ball hitters. I can't think of any off the top.
Almost every hitter, unless he's just an undisciplined hitter, almost every hitter is going to take that pitch. Breaking ball, ground ball. Ripken goes down to Hairston 1, Segui 2. 5-4-3 on the double play.
And if you're a pitcher who's around the plate and throws a lot of strikes, your reputation gets around, as you mentioned, Dwayne, that you are going to throw those strikes, which allows you to really stretch the perimeters of the strike zone. I watch him stretch it with his breaking ball down. Gets Gomez to chase this breaking ball, and all it is a double play.
Well, here's Jason Tyner. This one breaks down and in. Tyner out first base unassisted to start the Rays' first inning. The other side, and the count goes to 1-1. Tyner last night had a hit in the 6th inning, had one in the 7th, had one in the 8th, and another one in the 9th. And interestingly enough, the last big leaguer to do that was Hal McRae. Ground ball, first base. Well, nice play by Segui. Routine for Segui, and that retires the side. Through 3, 2-0 Baltimore. Leading 2-0, and the Rays will send Brent Abernathy to lead off against Josh Towers. Abernathy, Vaughn, and then Grieve. And the first pitch too high. Towers coming in with 8 wins and 7 losses. He made one start against the Rays and a couple relief appearances. 2-0. And he was not a guy the Orioles thought would step in and make 15 or 20 starts this year.
Well, I think he's figured it out and knows his fate. It's all about execution for him.
Foul ball. You know, he fits right in with the discussion we're having about pitchers doing that. Guys who pay attention, they have a certain aptitude. Maybe getting the idea that there is a pitch in a sequence of pitches to hitters that would help them get that guy out. I tell you, a guy on the Rays staff who is like that, we've talked about him before, is Travis Phelps. A similar type situation as Towers found himself in. 2-2 now to Abernathy. And it really is a guy who pays attention and figures out the edge a little bit. He leaves that one a little high. 3 balls, 2 strikes.
Well, I think Travis Phelps has kind of gone through his career as the last one in the litter. You know, getting the last chance to eat, and he's become more intuitive in his survival skills as a pitcher.
Down to third for Ripken. And across to Segui. What he's done is figure out where the kitchen is.
Yep. And go into it early and often.
That's right.
Does a good job of knowing when to make those pitches to get outs. And I think grading on the curve, I think in his pitching intuition, he is ahead of anybody that's in the bullpen down there right now. And obviously there's guys down there with better stuff. But
almost everybody throws harder.
Yeah. But I don't think anyone has a better feel for pitching. And there are certainly guys that throw harder than Travis Phelps and the Orioles started tonight, Josh Towers. But there's a whole lot of guys with not the same clue out there on the hill.
1-0 the count to Greg Vaughn. That's a strike. It's 1-1. And I think kind of interesting in Hal McRae's approach. You know, he wanted guys with stuff.
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with that, because number one, they're going to give you an opportunity. They'll have a chance, 1 and 2 now, to overpower guys, but eventually even those guys with stuff are going to have to pitch. And you know, Victor Zambrano, with the kind of stuff he has,
great stuff.
He's got great stuff, but it's not purely on the idea that I'm going to go out there and throw the ball harder than anybody can hit.
Esteban Yan has outstanding stuff too, and he's gone through a streak where he's just been giving up bolt after bolt. And I think sometimes you get overconfident in that stuff and think you're just going to start, the game speeds up and you're going to start just blowing the ball by guys in the middle of the plate. And I think he's learning by fire, because no one likes to stand out there, toe the slab, and rub up a new one seemingly every time a hitter comes up to the plate. I would hate it.
Even guys with great stuff have to pitch. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
But I think you can see where Hal McRae's talking about when he wants guys who have fantastic stuff to where they don't have to be absolutely perfect every time out. They can make mistakes on occasion in the middle of the plate, but not if they try to live there.
Down to third, Ripken. Again, it's Ripken to Segui. 2 outs in the 4th inning. Let's take a look at the Southern Ford Dealers League leaderboard tonight. Ben Grieve will be the hitter for the Devil Rays. And Grieve with the 71 bases on balls on that Southern Ford League leaderboard. 10th in the American League. Giambi already at 100. So Grieve hits here against Towers. The pitch is down. And all of that conversation, including Jan and Colomé, Zambrano down there in the bullpen, and Phelps, I think Phelps shows you that you don't have to have overpowering stuff if you know what you're doing. And he's got, probably, as you point out, more of an idea than some of the other guys with great stuff. And you really, I don't think, Joe, want a staff that's all the same anyway.
No, you don't. And I think of the Cleveland Indians before they traded Carsey to the Braves. Everyone coming out of the bullpen was exactly the same. Shuey, Carsey, all those guys throwing into the mid-90s. And the same type of breaking ball. And it's like Shuey goes out of there, and then you bring Carsey in, and it's like, did we even make a change if you're talking from the perspective of the hitter?
Yep. He's saying more of the same.
Yep.
And that's one of the reasons that McRae, in the rotation even, wants to split up Bierbrot and Kennedy.
Absolutely.
2 left-handers with pretty much with a similar look, not exactly the same, but close enough that you'd want to break them up.
Well, it's another reason why the Braves, in the resurgence that John Burkett has had in his career, you don't want Maddox and Burkett, who are both sinker ball change-up guys with great location, pitching back-to-back, and you've got to sandwich someone else in there in between them.
Wave and a miss. Grieve out in front, out on strikes. 1, 2, 3, go the ball to start Hall, misses. 1 ball, no strikes.
It's probably the big change or the biggest change, although it is subtle, that Towers has made from his last start against the Rays.
There's a shot, but it's going to be foul, out of play.
More off-speed pitches early in the count. You have the hitters meeting to start this game. All right, we're facing Josh Towers. He throws a lot of strikes, a lot of first pitch strikes. You figure to get some good pitches to hit early in the count. So the Rays have become more aggressive early in the count, and he has adjusted. As you were talking, Dwayne, how a good pitcher adjusts, and it's unusual to see a young pitcher making such finite adjustments.
Line drive, and it's grabbed by Ripken down at third base. A sharply hit ball by Toby Hall, and Ripken was there to make the grab.
We talked a lot about Hal Ripken's ability to always be running in or falling into the ball. This is a great shot here. Pitched before it's even in the hitting zone. He's already leaning and drifting that way, which will maximize his area of coverage at the reaction position.
Now Steve Cox takes the pitch for a strike. Cox popped to third, his first time up. Off speed and by the mound, but right there is Morin. The throw to first in time. Towers followed through, carried him away from that little tap, and the shortstop Mora handled it.
Oh, he looked like a fighter after someone had just buckled his knees and given him the knockdown punch. He got going one way, and the legs just kind of shriveled up on him and underneath him.
The 2 outs in the 5th inning. Towers, just 24 years old. A ball, no strikes. One and one. Rays come again with 3 consecutive wins, the first 2 over the Orioles in the last game of the road trip in Minnesota. Wynn fouls it back. A ball, 2 strikes. And on the heels of 20 hits last night when they won 11-10 coming from behind. Only the second time they won this year when they were down after the 7th inning. Ground ball, that's going to go through the left side. Randy Wynn comes up with a base hit. Well, the Devil Ray base runners have been scarce tonight. That's number 3 on the second hit.
The third baseman, number 10,
Jared Sandberg. Sandberg has a hit. So the Rays, in a little over a month now, have played over 500 since the 21st of July, 16 and 14. Wave and a miss at that breaking pitch.
Another first pitch breaking ball for a strike.
And the breaking ball lifted back into left. Kincaid all the way back, and that's going to be off the top of the wall. That ball is still in play. Wynn is on his way to the plate, and Sandberg is in with the double. It's 3-1 as the Rays get on the board.
Towers goes back with the breaking ball after coaxing a swing and a miss from Sandberg, and that is nothing other than a high hanger. He tries to get greedy and overthrows it, and when you do that, oftentimes you leave it right in the fat part of the zone and the fat part of Jared Sandberg's bat. Mike Kincaid pondered a moment whether that ball was going to be out or a double.
Well, it was over the green wall, but under the yellow stripe out there for a double. The second for Sandberg. Now here's Chris Gomez. That's a strike.
Wouldn't that be easier if the padding was just brought all the way up to the yellow line?
You know, I always thought that when I'd see parks with yellow lines out there, it'd be easier to tell whether the ball had gone out or not.
And that may be something that the Rays are trying to preserve sight lines for the people in the first few rows.
There's a line drive, but down to third, caught by Ripken, and that retires the side. So we're through 5 with the score 3-1 Baltimore. The guest services counter at the Trop, or call your travel service at 1-800-638-3137. Jason Tyner takes the ball. 1-0. And a strike, and so the count is 1-1.
Have they already contacted you about being on that cruise and providing evening entertainment with your one-man band routine?
How about you? Bounce out to second. Hairston. Low throw, and it's scooped by Segui, but he can't come up with it as it pops away from him. And Tyner is aboard on the Hairston error.
Well, we've seen a lot of the Orioles and seen Jerry Hairston sometimes have his difficulties just goosing the ball over there on that little short throw, that little in-betweener. Should I flip it? Should I really put something on it or lob it? And that's just a big-time unforced error.
So the Rays have the leadoff man aboard. 15th error charge to Hairston this year. And here's Brent Abernathy. Tyner back in. Jeff Conine now in left field as Chris Richard has entered the game in right field. And a shot down the left field line, and that's going to be foul. Well, Abernathy gives you a little punch every once in a while, and he caught the fans' attention with that drive, but foul.
Such great improvements that Jason Tyner and Brent Abernathy have made in their short stay in the major leagues. And I think the impressive thing about Abernathy and Tyner is they've shown the ability to hit good pitches. They're not just hitting pitchers' mistakes. They can handle the bat in all parts of the strike zone.
And he lifts it into short center. Mora's out. Bigby coming in. It's going to be Mora, the shortstop, for the out.
But that's the one thing that Abby really has been addressing out of the air. That's a frustrating at-bat for him because he knows that he's not that type of guy who's going to constantly pepper the walls with his pop. That is a frustrating at-bat. He certainly knows that there is no future for him in hitting the ball in the air.
Now Greg Vaughn. Vaughn twice has grounded to third.